And we are live on Zoom. We are live on YouTube, and we are live on the Sevens with Pi Frisbee, Metatron's internet radio station. Thankful and grateful for each and every one of you that is here today. Excuse me. We have a very, very, very great opportunity this Therapeutic Thursday to really, really peel back some layers of some things and really, really get to the bottom of some of the reasons why we act the way we act and react the way we act and respond the way we respond and sometimes even talk and challenge folks in certain situations or in certain uh, circumstances during certain events, and it's really, really uh, uh, tied back to something that
Totally.
something that was our happened to us in our childhood or in our developmental stages that was very traumatic, that was highly impressionable, and that caused a equal and opposite reaction out of each and every one of us. Hold on for 1 second. You know, a lot of us uh, have a bunch of jumbled mess inside of us, unresolved traumas, things that we saw or we heard or we were exposed to as a kid and when we were developing that were just as bad, if not worse, than the sexual stuff that happened to a lot of us. So today, we want to peel back uh, some more layers of this shit. And we want to really, really, really focus on some of the non-sexual traumas that we went through during our childhood and our developmental years. So, this is on the Sevens with Pi Frisbee Metatron, where we come to awaken, ascend, and expand. I am Pi Frisbee Metatron, your hostess with the mostest, and today is a very great day to be me. You know, every day is a very great day to be me. I believe this, I live this, I bees this, and I require this. So, wherever and however you may be watching or listening to this live broadcast or the simulcast version of it or a replay, I would like for each of us to take a deep breath in through the nose on a slow count. You don't have to count any numbers in your head or anything, but just on a slow count. We're going to breathe in slowly through the nose. Breathe in, hold, release, clear your minds, clear your thoughts. Look in, however and wherever you may be watching or listening, and wherever it is safe. Just look into your soul and repeat this after me. Today is a very good day to be me. You know, every day is a very good day to be me. I believe this, I live this, I bees this, and I require this. And I guarantee you this, should you make this mantra and a part of your daily morning rituals, a part of your nightly rituals before you go to bed, and then you go about and do the things that mantra, that simple mantra will motivate and inspire you to do, I guarantee you this, each and every day, your life gets better exponentially. Again, I'm thankful and grateful for everyone that is here, giving a disclaimer and a warning. Today's broadcast will touch on very sensitive areas. If during the broadcast at any time, any of this that we are going over becomes overwhelming or you become negatively triggered, you have my permission to exit from the meeting if you so choose desire, uh, uh, and allow yourself not to be triggered. I would hope that even in the triggering, you would stay so that you could process through all of the feelings. The number one part of the shadow work is to process through the feelings we have stuffed and the feelings that we have kept down and the feelings that we purposefully have compartmentalized and put away because they are uncomfortable or because of what the exposure of certain things may do to ourselves and or to someone else. I want everybody on here today to understand this at the soul core level. It's not about what somebody else is going to feel, think, or react about. You releasing and clearing and freeing yourself from childhood trauma and developmental stage issues. And should they act some type of way, I guarantee you they may have been a perpetrator or an accomplice to something that happened to you. So again, if we get too deep for you, I won't take it personal if you check yourself off of the call. However, I have been called to do this, and this will be done. Any comments, any questions, any concerns before we get started down this road? Got a packed house tonight. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. The more, the merrier. I have a feeling a lot of us are going to have uh, uh, similar yet divergent stories about some of the things that we are going to be uh, dealing with today. So I want to encourage everybody. I want to encourage everybody be as hot as you can today. Honest, open, transparent. Again, I own the platform. This is a safe space. I'm not going to judge you. And if anybody on this call starts judging somebody else, I will kick your ass out of here. This is no judgment zone. This is for healing. So as Honeybee stated, happy healing to us all. All right, here we go, y'all. Here we go. Non-sexual childhood traumas and how it affects your adult life. More and more stories are coming out regarding the amount of sexual abuse that was, past tense, and continues to be perpetrated against kids. Um, somehow and in some way, most of us have been either inappropriately touched or, or improperly talked to or unnecessarily disciplined during our childhood and developmental stages. Now, I'm going to stop right here real fast because I need to explain something that many of us probably went through. I want to talk about something that many of us probably went through and we just discounted it, or oh, that's just mama, or oh, that was just daddy, or oh, that's just this or that. My mother had a stroke and a brain hemorrhage when I was in kindergarten or first grade. She had to go to a hospital. She was in rehab for a while. The whole time, uh, I'm there with my grandmother and my grandfather. I'm going to tell y'all another story about that later on, how I ended up with my grandmother and my grandfather. Uh, and they were already, well into their 60s, I believe, by the time I got there. And I was 6 or 7, whatever kindergarten, first grade ages, I was that old. uh, First day, I was at my grandmother's house. After they told me what happened to my mother, my grandmother set me down in a chair and she looked me in my eye and she said, "Look here, boy, we live differently than the rest of the folks that look like us. Don't question shit. Don't ask for shit. I will let you know when you need something." That was first day. That was 10 minutes after I found out my mama had a stroke and was in the hospital. I don't know if she's dead. I don't know what the fuck is going on with my mama. Come home, come to my grandma's house, and that was what I got. For, let's see, until I was probably, so from that day forward till I was probably, 9 or 10 or 11, uh, I thought my name was nigga, because every time she wanted to talk to me, every time she wanted me to do something, every time she got mad, got glad, recognized I was here, whatever, she never said, "Mark, come here. Nigga, come here. Come here." And then whenever I did something wrong, I was a little MFer. Never Mark, never. So for a while there, I thought my name had got changed. Another thing that about how I was talked to, uh, uh, everything that my grandmother and my mother thought, felt, and believed that was wrong with my father, they would accuse me of doing, and then said, "You're going to end up just like him." And I was told he was a con man and a liar. So I'm a little kid and I ain't even seen this dude yet. And I'm getting bombarded every day. Yeah, your daddy was a con man, dad was a liar. And you're saying stuff to us like your daddy would say. So you're sounding like you're lying. Never had nothing I told my grandmother, my mother. They didn't believe shit that I told them. Nothing. So I'm going to tell y'all what that did for me. What that did for me, and this was, I believe, a good thing for myself. What that did for me was always tell the fucking truth. You know why? Because my grandmother was going to question me about shit 3, 4, 5 times over, like she was a goddamn prosecuting attorney. Over and over. She would remember shit from 3 months ago and ask me about it again 3 months later. So I figured out if I told the truth, it didn't change. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Somehow, some way, most of us have either been improperly touched or inappropriately touched or improperly talked to or unnecessarily disciplined during our childhood and developmental stages. The actual sexual abuse was damaging enough. And we're going to have a whole show just on that later on. Yet it was the non-sexual abuse that happened that really made the lasting impressions upon each of us and that affects us in our adult life. As children, we are often powerless against those that want to groom us for whatever reason. As we reach our teen years, which I refer to as our developmental stage of life, we are very malleable and very curiously vulnerable to those that can prey upon the weak and those that are unprotected. This is the key to realize, and a lot of us didn't even realize it when it was happening. Some of us get groomed for sex. Let that sink in for a minute. Some of us get groomed for sex. It's terrible, it's pathetic, but it happens. Some of us get groomed for our service. Any mothers emotionally and mentally manipulating their kids to stay on her side or to don't leave me, I need you, or any fathers emotionally manipulating their sons into doing something, doing thus and such for them. Some of us, and this is the cold piece about all of it, some of us get groomed for our silence. You know how many of us were taken into confidence by an adult in our life, maybe a mom, maybe a dad that was doing some shit that the mom or the dad didn't want to know, didn't want the other partner to know, or maybe they didn't want people in the neighborhood to know. They didn't want their mama or their daddy to know. And they groomed us to shut the fuck up. None of us get groomed because we asked for it or we wanted it. Now, I'm going to open this up right here and ask a few questions that require each of us to go deeper than the surface and to go where has been forbidden and or forgotten. I want everybody to feel safe, feel free, feel open, honest, and be transparent. And let's all collectively, this group right here, these folks that are here right now, right today, this moment, let's all start a healing process. Let's just instead of outspending people and instead of out influencing people and out marketing people and out texting people, let's out heal people. Y'all see what I'm saying? Let's out shadow work. You want to do something more than somebody else? Heal. You want to beat somebody at something? Beat somebody at inner shadow work and healing. All right. Floor is open. First question. How many of us realize that our parents or the people that raised us were our first groomers? Floor is open. Floor is open. Anybody?
I'll share.
Go ahead, honeybee.
Um, so I definitely came to a realization like that a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
because I wondered why I was okay with letting people just kind of run over me
Mm-hmm.
and why I always felt like I had to stick it out to the very end. But growing up, my mom went through a lot of mental trauma. I remember like being in elementary school and we was in Louisiana. It was just me, my sister, my brother in the house for like 3 weeks at a time. And I was like, "Where's mommy? Where's mommy?" And they were like, "Oh, she at work right now. She come home when you go to sleep." And then as I got older, I learned that she was locked up in a mental institution for trying to off herself.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I got older, she had attempted it several more times. And my sister left and my brother left, and I was the only one that stuck around. And I feared that if I ever left, that she would actually succeed in doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried to stick it out as much as I could. I'm like, the very first time it happened, I think I was probably like in kindergarten,
Okay.
and she tried it multiple times up until I was like 20 something, and I finally realized that that's not my job.
No, it's not.
I have to take care of me first.
Absolutely. You have to always take care of you first. And again, you were a child, honeybee. You were a child. You should not have had to even ponder those type of thoughts. You should have been playing with dolls and making lemonade and selling for a nickel a cup on the corner or something like that. You should not have even been put in that situation yet, and still you were. And again, this is not ragging on your mother or anything like that. She did what she felt she had to do.
Yeah.
It still doesn't change the fact that you were groomed and manipulated and guilted and shamed and whatever else we want to put on that not to leave.
Yeah, and it definitely did play a huge part in manipulation. But like I said, I didn't realize it until I like reached my 20s, and
Mm-hmm.
she wanted me to do something, and I was just tired of arguing with her. And I was like, I'm not doing it. No,
Right.
I'm going. I left, and then she texted me a picture of her pill bottle, and she was like, I just took all of it. So I immediately came back to the house
Mm,
and sat there with
mm,
her.
mm.
But I don't think she actually took them. That's when I
Right.
realized like this is just a manipulation tactic that you've been using this entire time. And
Absolutely.
it's shown up in different people in different situations. And I had to learn how to overcome that.
Absolutely. 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 Thank you for that, honeybee. Thank you. You know, this is a was a cold piece of manipulation and grooming by my grandmother. From like I said, from that first day, she laid the law down and let me know what was up, and she got her bluff in on me that day. My grandmother, the only person ever alive that I've ever been afraid of. Never afraid of the bully, wasn't afraid of people I didn't know, wasn't afraid of nobody except her. She got her bluff in on me. But this is the cold part about grooming and manipulation. So for this whole time, from time I'm like kindergarten, first grade, I'm there in the house with my grandmother. And the whole time from the beginning, boy, you know, you got to leave when you're 18. You can't stay with me after you get 18. I don't care when, if you graduate and you're 18, you got to go. Okay. Every other day, I kept hearing that. Every other day, I always was reminded that this is not your house. This is my house. You just live here. I just let you live here. Fast forward 17 and a half, I'm packing up my shit out of my room and I'm putting it in the car. She's like, boy, where are you going? I said, well, I got me a spot. I'm renting me a spot at the rooming house. Oh my God, here come the tears, and oh, we need you around here. What are we gonna do without you? Oh my God. And I laughed and got slapped right in the face for laughing because I was confused. I was confused. Here, you done told me for the past 11 years that when I turn 18, I have to go. I'm 6 months ahead. You should be thrilled. But no, you come with the waterworks and the guilt, and we need you, and nobody else can do this for us, and blah, 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 blah. Well, I waved at her when I left and said, I'll be by here every day for dinner. And if you need to go anywhere, I'm just live around the corner. Manipulation, still manipulation. Grooming. Anybody else wanna chime in about that question? Your parents. Yes, go ahead, Miss Lemons.
Yeah.
We can't hear you. Get closer to your mic.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Absolutely, we can.
Okay, good. I have like a combination with yours, your background that you were referring to, with the verbiage, the word use, like and then it's the repetition of it, just going deeper and deeper and deeper into the subconscious. So it's like a mix of that. And my mother was very big on religion.
Yes.
So it was like everything was like, if you don't do this, you're gonna die. If you don't do this, you're gonna die. If you do this, then you'll live. And I'm like, okay. So I'm confused. And it was like, you can't live here if you don't follow this religion. You can't eat here if you don't follow this religion. You can't do nothing if you don't follow this religion. And I'm like, okay, so if I leave this and I don't do it, then that does automatically mean like I'm scorched off the earth, like I instantly
like God's just gonna smash your ass or something, right?
Like I would try to leave to go have fun, and then I'd be like, well, what if somebody carjack you and snatch you out the car and beat you and leave you for dead? I'm like, dang, I just want to go have fun.
I just want to go get a soda pop at the I just want to go hang out at Taco Bell. That's it. That's the game.
It's always what it was. So then it was like from that point on, like anytime I shared space with people, I'm automatically in my head was like, okay, I can't do this. I can't do this.
Yep.
I can't do this. I can't do that.
Yep.
And it's like, you need to open up. You need to do this. And I'm like, I'm working on it. But after so many years of like, this is the only way you can live, and anything else you do is a failure.
Absolutely.
It's like reworking that is so challenging. But like you said before, like it strengthened the conviction that I have in myself to move forward, because that was like, and she still has her moments even now, but it's like I literally have to see the patterns in that, like that deep subconscious telling somebody over and over the same thing. And then they look at you like you crazy because you at this point, like, is it the truth? Is it real? Like, am I losing my marbles? Or
am I nuts? Am I crazy?
Yeah. Like it's like so confusing.
Am I gonna amount to nothing? Yeah, all of that. Especially when you get battered with that shit day after day after day after day. Let me tell y'all something. And thanks for that, Miss Williams. We're gonna get to the threats in the next questions that I ask. So I want you to keep a hold of that. My grandmother, man, when I tell you that to everybody else in the neighborhood, she was like Miss Benevolent, and they would always after she gave somebody something, they would find me in the street. Man, Mark, your grandmother is so nice. I said, y'all don't live with her. You do not live with her. To be constantly told you ain't gonna amount to nothing. To be constantly told you just lying like your daddy. To be constantly told that, yeah, you might have book smarts, but you ain't got no fucking common sense. I used to look at her like, oh, brother. It got to the point that I would overindulge myself at school so I didn't have to come home. Y'all understand what I mean? I had enough credits in the middle, in the first quarter of my junior year to graduate, because I went to night school and I went to summer school and I went to any extracurricular school shit that kept me from having to go home. Why? because I didn't want to hear my grandmother's mouth. Because she never had anything positive to say to me about anything. It was always negative. She always would find a negative. I won a few spelling bees in a row in grade school, and the only thing she could tell me was, boy, why don't you let somebody else win, or people are going to start hating you. Let somebody else. So what, I'm supposed to purposefully misspell a word so somebody else can win. I didn't never. Anybody else, I could run on for days with examples from the folks who raised me. Anybody else want to touch on that first question about parents being our first groomers?
I can definitely share.
Please do.
When I was younger, for me, I feel like with my mom, she was really raised on that mindset of like, if you can't do it perfect, don't do it at all. So I very much grew up, and it created this like perfectionist mindset where I felt like if I could not show up 100%, I couldn't show up at all, which led to a life of procrastinating, and it led to a whole lot of other things.
Yes, yes, that procrastination, because it paralyzes you. Look, your mom must be related to my grandmother some type of way, because perfection was the only thing that she accepted.
The only option, and it makes you feel like you're not good enough.
Makes you feel like
so then,
yeah.
So as you get older, that started to really like, I would see that in everything I did. So school, work, and it just would get me to the space where I would feel so emotionally overwhelmed. I would just shut down.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I didn't grow up in a household where there wasn't anybody around that was teaching me how to deal with my emotions. So if I was upset, I lived in a house where it was like, okay, go in the room because you're bothering everybody crying. Like, why are you crying in front of everybody? Like it was very much like if you're not happy, then we don't want to be around you. And so then that taught me through life that it was like, oh, if I can't show up happy, then I just won't show up at all. And that started to relay like into my friendships, into my relationships. And I would date, and people are like, well, talk to me, tell me what's wrong. And I'm like, I'm not good. I'm not 100%. So I can't show up.
Right.
And I thought that made sense because of my upbringing.
Right.
You get older and you're like, oh, that doesn't make sense. You don't have to show up 100%. You can still show up if all you got is 40.
That's it. If you got zero, look, if you got zero and they can wheel your ass in there, you can show up. Yeah. Just depends on what the situation, circumstance, and event is. I get that wholeheartedly about the perfectionism, man. And I mean, think about it like this. My family in the town I grew up was one of the elite melanated families in the town. And so I come, my uncles and aunts and my mother, they were well known. So I was just like, oh, brother, really? And probably from the time I got to my grandmother's house, I never felt like I was part of the family. I felt like they just picked me up somewhere and just say, hey, yeah, come on, be with us. Because I'm totally opposite. I think differently than they did. I looked at things differently than they did. The shit that made them laugh, I was abhorred by, and the shit that they cried about, I thought was fucking hilarious. So I never felt part of it. It's tough, man. It's tough when that grooming happens. And as kids, we're real powerless. What we gonna do? We're gonna fight mama. We're gonna fight daddy. Yeah, you're gonna get groomed and punched. Go ahead, Miss Mocha. Unmute yourself. Miss Mocha, are you talking? Because if you are, you need to unmute yourself. Let's see. We'll come back around to you, Ms. Mocha. Fix your audio, and we'll come back around. Hold your thought. All right, second question. And this may this may trigger and invoke some wild memories as well. Can we also admit to the fact that the public school system here in America was a powerful groomer for each of us? I know public school system. And I was fortunate. I went to public school in a nice little rural town in Central California in the 70s, in the late 60s and through the 70s, when it was still governed by non-radical folks. Okay, go ahead, Mocha. If you want to chime in now, go ahead. We'll go ahead. Go ahead, Mocha. Unmute yourself too.
No, I'm having some issues with the phone. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Okay, you go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. And in school, at least when I was in school, I don't know how they do it now, but in school, every morning before you come in, you sit down, all the kids is jumping around, and then next thing you know, that bell rings and we all get to our desks, and then we stand up and put our hands over our hearts and we say that pledge of allegiance. Now, again, I don't know what is going on in public schools today. I do know that it wasn't a day from kindergarten, I would say, all the way through 8th grade. I don't remember doing the Pledge of Allegiance in homeroom in high school. I don't remember. We might have. But I remember from kindergarten all the way through 8th grade, every freaking morning, do that Pledge of Allegiance. I remember the math tables. I remember the grammar and all of that. Can we admit now that we were groomed instead of educated? We were groomed how to sit still. We were groomed how to color within the box. We were groomed how to raise your hand. We were groomed how to be stifled. Most of what I was exposed to in my grade school, elementary, junior high, and high school, most stuff I was exposed to was repeated year after year after year. So let's say from fourth, for me, this is just for me. I don't know about anybody else. I have the beauty of being able to remember most shit I've ever read in my life. If I read it twice, I remember that shit. So for me, from 4th grade on, it was real easy. School was real easy because all I had to do was recall the shit that they already taught us, because they didn't teach us nothing new after 4th grade. We learned geography. We learned arithmetic. We learned spelling. We learned world history. We learned American history. And then each year after that, they just kept piling that same shit on and on and on and on and on. How many of y'all drew the silhouette pictures of President Lincoln and President Washington when you was in grade school? Every year. Yeah. And we were indoctrinated to be able to take tests. That's what we were programmed. We were groomed to be able to pass a basic proficiency test. Nobody was encouraged to think on their own. Nobody was encouraged to think outside of the box. Everybody had to do the same paper mache shit. Everybody had to do the same playground shit. Everybody had the same books, and everybody was given the same tests. each one of us was unique. There is no one size fit all in teaching anybody anything. And yet we were groomed every year. Every year we were groomed.
Can I share a little bit?
Please do.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great.
Um,
Yeah.
okay, so for many years, I think I shared the story. For many years, I was molested. Like my mother got remarried, and all of that changed. I loved school when I was elementary. I remember it changed. School changed for me. It became a safe place.
Mhm.
Most of the education, it went over my head. It went kind of over my head. That's why by the time I went to junior high school, I had to reset. And by the time I got to high school, I started learning again. And so it was more of a safe space. And they still do the Pledge of Allegiance. They still do the bull crap. They still do all of that, but they have changed, but they
Okay.
still it just became more political. School is political now.
Yes. Yes.
But for many children, I see school as different now. As a
Right.
social worker, I see it totally different. I understand what you're getting, but children get food. They eat, they get meals, they have a safe place and all that. So yeah, it is political, but most of the time, secondary to it's like a second home. It's
Mhm.
like a safe spot
Mhm.
because even before my mother was my mother's always passive, loving, but very passive.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
some of her decisions hurt most of her children. Not, I'm just saying most to
Right.
all of us to a
Right.
point. And from her, I learned the word to be vulnerable,
Yes.
and most of the time, I had to learn that word. That word was shown to me. It wasn't taught to me. It was shown how we become vulnerable to the world because the family is not stable. The family
Absolutely.
is not strong,
Absolutely.
And so just because we have other members of the family, they might not know what's going on in our home. And if they
Oh,
see a little bit, do they have a strong back to come and change what
right.
they
Do they have the
see,
courage?
or yeah, or have or contribute,
Right.
right?
Absolutely.
Right. And so that's why I really became the social worker, so I could understand the hell what happened, what happened, because no one explained shit to me. Only
Right.
only my older sister, because I asked the questions.
Right.
But other than that, I didn't have anybody. So, I think things changed over time for
Mhm.
me, and I had to really start from scratch by the time high school came around with the
Absolutely.
education and reading and writing and all that, because it
Absolutely.
was it was really, kind of crazy.
Thank you for that, Jolene.
Mhm.
Thank you. Um, y- and then the secondary part of the school system that really um has more of the undercover groomers and more of the down low predators is question number 3 that I want us to consider. What about the various sports teams or the band or the choir or the clubs that we join or get recruited to? What about that? What about anybody was a Girl Scout?
I was a Girl Scout.
How did you uh get exposed to any groomers in the Girl Scouts?
When you say groomers, what do you mean?
Anyone who makes you conform to their way of doing something?
No, actually, my experience with Brownies and Girl Scouts is I was encouraged to be an individual, even though I was a part of the team, and really encouraged to shine, let my gift shine.
You had great leaders and adults that were in those in that troop that you were a part of. And if you didn't get pressure from the leaders and you didn't get pressure from the other Girl Scouts, your situation was very, very, very great. I know plenty of folk that were sieged by scout leaders, that were sieged and preyed upon by band directors and choir directors, and again, all of this is not sexual. I'm not talking about sexual, just attempting to manipulate you to their way of thinking or their way of doing things that is against your natural way. So
Well, I tell you why, Chris, with Girl Scouts and Brownies was a balance for the school that I went to, because I went to a predominantly Caucasian school up until I reached a certain age, and we were bused. And so we were exposed to an educational process. Yes, we got good education, but because it was very few people that looked like me there, that's where the conforming or try to put you in a box came. And so I struggled in that because I'm such a creative and have always been a creative. So they wanted to label me hyperactive, or, I learned differently. And I'm a creative learner as well. And as soon as so the Brownies and the Girl Scouts helped to balance that out, because the very thing that the school system attempted to do, Brownies, my experience with Brownies and Girl Scouts kind of undid that and allowed me to shine and be who I was as a creator.
That's lovely. That is great, and I am thoroughly happy that was your experience. However, and yet and still, it was there that you got your solace from the junk that was going on at the house, and a lot of us, we forget to think about it like this, but the people in the house, man, they're supposed to take care of me, man. You ain't supposed to be doing shit to be hurting me and all of that. And if there's anything that is keeping me from wanting to run home real fast, that needs to be discussed, and that needs to be talked about. That needs to be opened up, man. I will admit to this. It didn't matter what was going on at my house or what I thought my grandmother was going to say or not say. I would have my ass at home every night at 6 o'clock, because that's when dinner was ready. Anybody else want to chime in on these on any of these questions about the parents, about the school system, and about those extracurricular things that we have done? Yes, Miss Mocha, unmute yourself, and then Honeybee.
What I wanted to say is my mother and my father's relationship groomed me to have relationships with hoish ass men. My mother, a very sweet, very loyal person. My father was brilliant in a lot of ways, but he was a hoe. And I admired him so much. He encouraged me to be myself. I looked up to him in so many different ways, and I have a lot of strength, but it would seem that I'm still working on the strength to not be attracted to hoes.
All right.
So
I ain't mad at you. Hey, I had something similar in me that I had to fix. I get it.
And I've thought before, I'll connect with someone. Oh, but he's not like that. He's different. This, that, and then if I stay with them long enough, they show their whole self. So I'm working to heal that shit.
Oh, we're gonna definitely get you on track to heal that shit. That shit has to go.
Yes, that's got to go. So that's what I wanted to share. Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome. Go ahead, Honeybee.
I lived with my mom most of my childhood and teenage years. And I don't remember who was talking, but it made me realize that in other relationships with people, I was scared to speak my truth for a long time because either I wasn't listened to, I was overlooked, nobody heard what I said. Or when they did hear me, they thought I was lying. And I remember like being in school and I had a psychology teacher. I was in the 10th grade. My psychology teacher, he he got in a lot of trouble. He ended up getting arrested because he was messing around with some of the young girls at the school. But um I was having troubles at home. Like I didn't want to go home because we didn't have money.
Right.
It would be like weeks where our water would be off or our lights would be out or we didn't have any gas in the house. So we had to go to a neighbor's house to take a shower, like different things that would go on. So even when I went to school, it still wasn't a safe space because I couldn't properly tend to like my hygiene the way I needed to because we didn't have anything at home. And sometimes like people would smell that or
Oh,
they would
yeah.
see that and they would comment on it and it made me very self-conscious.
Yep.
And one of my psychology professor, he pulled me to the side and he was like, hey, because we had this thing where if we came to school late, we had to go straight to the principal's office and we got in trouble, we had to go to detention or whatever. And he was like, just come straight to class. It's okay. Just sit down. And then like a few weeks later, I remember he pulled me in the hallway and he started rubbing on my back and he was like, you were so sexy. And I never, I never spoke up about it because I was nervous
Right.
because in the past when I spoke up about stuff, like when I told my mom that I wasn't feeling well and she had me do all these chores. And then when I turned around and finally went to the doctor, they were like, oh, you have acute pneumonia and bronchitis, acute bronchitis and pneumonia. And I was on bed rest for 2 weeks. And she's like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, but I told you I wasn't feeling good. Like,
right.
So just stuff like that. Whoever that was that was speaking, I'm so sorry I don't remember, but that made me realize that that's where that started. And that's one of the things where I was like, why do I just let like I'm really bad. Even today I'm still working on it where I'll just let stuff slide to avoid confrontation and then let it slide a little bit more and then let it slide a little bit more and then I won't say anything and then I'll just explode.
Right.
So that was a trigger for me that I'm now aware of.
I got you. Thank you for that. As we can see, some of the grooming actually served a greater purpose and has positively affected us. I'm grateful that I got a good work ethic because I was groomed to have a work ethic because I was told this ain't no fucking flop house, boy. Get your ass up and get outside and get busy. Well into our adult lives. However, more was done in the furtherance of someone else's sick, twisted, or evil agenda. All right. Some of us grew up in violent neighborhoods. Some of us were raised in dysfunctional, emotionally charged, or fear-based households. Some of us grew up experiencing emotionally intense circumstances, events, and happenings on a regular and sometimes daily basis. Some of us grew up in normal ways with not much drama going on in our immediate environments, yet we're subjected to harsh and hurtful treatment outside of the home. Some of the abuse was big and major and caused much more damage than was visible at the time. And some of the abuse was subtle and secret, which caused different types of damage that many of us continue to hold on to and allow to negatively affect us in our adult lives. I've already told you about grandmother and how she talked to me. My grandmother talked to pretty much everybody the same way, starting with her husband of over 60 some odd years, my grandfather. They would have a nightly cuss fest every night, after dinner, after the NBC nightly news went off. And my grandmother was the instigator always. You see, my grandfather, by this time in his life, my grandfather had stopped working pretty much, and he enjoyed wine. He over enjoyed wine. He over enjoyed wine daily. You guys get the picture. So much so that I would have to go down the alley so that nobody saw me. And I would have to go down and get my grandfather from the spot and then maneuver him and me back up the alley into the back gate and up to the back door of the house. Because he was thoroughly intoxicated. So by the time dinner was over, my grandfather he's full of liquor. He done ate a good meal that my grandmother done cooked. He done watched the news, and he just wants to relax. And no, my grandmother was like, nah, brother, you ain't fixing to relax. And she would just tear into him. MF this, and would go below the belt, talked about his lips and what they would do on her cooter. And I mean, I called him a shit-colored nigga because he was real light-skinned. He looked like Ernest Borgnine, the same hair and the same facial features. He's a German Jew. His family come out of Hamburg, Germany. And this was back and forth every night. And my grandfather would last with her during the nightly cuss fest about a good 15, 20 minutes. And then she would go real low. She just kept going lower and lower and lower till he finally just said, "The hell, woman." And he would get up and walk to the back of the house and go to bed. This was every night. $10 years straight. The 2 times that I attempted to intercede and be the referee. Yeah, the first time I don't even remember how I ended up on the floor. I have no clue. I don't know. I don't know. I had a bump on the back of my head the next morning. I couldn't tell you. All I remember was, Granny, you need to stop talking to Pom like that. And then I woke up in the bed the next morning. The next time I was getting ready to say something, and I looked at my mother, and my mother said, and I just ducked my head. Do you know what that did to me as far as my image of a Black man? Do you know how that influenced and shaped my perception and of men, of Black men? You know what else it did for me? I promised myself that I would never deal with a woman like my grandmother, overbearing, evil, or my mother, an enabler. Some of the abuse was big and major and caused much more damage than visible at the time. And some of the abuse was subtle and secret, which caused different types of damage that many of us continue to hold on to and allow to negatively affect us in our adult life. How we react to certain situations and scenarios comes directly from some childhood trauma. Many of us have hard-coded trauma responses embedded deep within our souls because of something we heard or something we saw or something we did or something that was done to us as children and during our developmental stages in life. Repeated exposure to traumatic circumstances, events, happenings, and situations can cause us to either get totally numb to those types of circumstances, events, happenings, situations, thereby accepting them as normal, or we internalize everything and become fragile, fearful, and tepid, and discount or deny those circumstances, events, happenings, and situations actually ever happened. All right, I'm going to open this up and ask a couple of questions that require each of us to go deeper than the surface and to go to where has been forbidden and forgotten. Number one, were you ever cussed at, cussed out, talked down to, called out your name, or threatened by your parents or those that raised you during childhood and your developmental stages? Floor is open.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ms. Brown.
Hey, thank you everyone for being open and sharing how you feel.
Absolutely.
So I grew up, with a single mother. And the older that I got, I kind of realized that she didn't really know how to express herself based off of my grandmother, because my grandmother was mean. And she ironically has Alzheimer's and dementia, so she doesn't even remember half of the way she used to be. So that's another conflicting thing as well. So I can give an example of, I never forget, I was maybe about 13 or 14, and I wrote my mother a letter expressing to her how I feel, my feelings, how she made me feel. And she yelled at me. She was mad at me. She tore up the letter. She rejected the letter. She was so upset. Didn't talk to me for days. And I feel that now more as an adult, like it's sometimes scared. Now I realize like I'm scared sometimes to express myself, or I don't know how, others will react to it, or I don't know how to properly, speak my mind based off of how she reacted.
Right.
So it's just, I definitely empathize with her because I realize how her mother was, which is my grandmother.
Yes.
And my mother is Jamaican. So they, live a totally different, lifestyle. My mother grew up in Jamaica in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So totally different thing.
Totally different. Yes.
And my grandmother was born in the 30s. So it's a totally different, thing.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I just try to empathize because I know it's different from me now living as a Black woman here in America.
Yes.
But it definitely has affected me, and it's just definitely something, just one of the many things that I now need to kind of grow on. I deal with manipulation with my mother where I now resent her. Like for today, she called me and it's like, I feel bad because I'm like, ugh. I don't like that feeling. It doesn't feel good where it's like your mother calls you and you're like, oh, why is she calling me? I don't like that feeling. But I feel like what I've dealt with is she raised me to be the giver, right? The helper. Because she's a single mother, I've had to learn how to do everything she's needed me to do, like stand down a table and 4 chairs. Like I'm doing everything her man would do.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Because that's what I became. So she kind of, in a sense, abused that. So now I resent her for even asking me for things. I don't mind. I would love to do it for anybody else because I feel like they appreciate it.
Absolutely.
But with her, she makes me feel like I need to or I have to.
Like it's your obligation.
Yes.
And it's not your obligation. And thereby comes that obligatory love, which is the worst type of shit because one party is getting screwed every time in that equation.
Yeah. So
thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Anybody else? Miss Lemons first, Miss Mocha, then Court, in that order.
Okay, so my whole thing with my mother was she would always tell me to get out the mirror, or she'd tell me that she'd give me like a backhanded compliment. She would basically tell me like I need to tone it down, and she would tell people not to give me compliments in front of my sister because she don't feel bad, because she was, the chocolate and all that's what my uncle used to call it, salt and pepper chocolate vanilla. That's what they used to do it. But it was like my mom felt like she, had issues with her look, and her and my mother do favor more than me and my mother do, body type wise. So they would sit and talk about me and tell me like, oh, I'm skinny, I don't have like, a certain curvature that they have. Or she'll tell me like, when I grow up, I'm gonna have children by men who don't like me or don't want to be with me. And then I'll realize what she was trying to tell me when I get older. And I was like, is that what we're supposed to do? Because I had like deep spell work written all over it.
Yes.
How it came across every single time.
Sounded like it. It sounded like a ritual, man. That sounded like a ritual every time they were saying that shit.
Yes, it was like I didn't understand, and it was like when she wasn't up for her best, like when she had to perform and she don't sing, I was there to give her support. When she was trying to figure out what to wear, she would ask me. I would give her the support. And the same thing with my sister. But then it was like when I needed the support, it was like, no, that's not gonna work, or you don't know what you're talking about, or you shouldn't have picked that. And it was like, okay, well, like it's no winning here, basically. Like, okay, well, I'm just gonna do my own thing. And then they're like, well, you don't care about your family. You think your friends is better than you. I'm like, I can't do nothing.
Oh man, that sounds like my grandmother and my mother, man. Like you will do something for somebody else, won't do nothing around here. And I would always say, well, who cuts the grass here? Who takes out the trash? Who paints the house? Who does all of this? And then don't get smart. Like, wow.
Yeah, I'm helping my mother pay half the rent, paying the light bill. Like paying her bills. Like, and I'm doing all of this at 19 years old. And then she got an attitude with me because I came home and I said I was tired and so like washing dishes, and she cussed me out. I'm like, just because I don't wash the dishes. Like, okay. Whatever. Like, it's like stuff like that. And then it's like I was just telling my therapist earlier today, like I feel like I'm fighting all those remarks. Every time I take a step into a new direction, like I'm fighting those thoughts. And like just dodging the haters. Like, you know what I'm saying? And my dad wasn't like that. He just was more like, you gotta work hard and nothing is free. Like you gotta grind. And it was like, okay, so like, do I get to breathe? Can I rest?
Yeah, no fun, no living, just work, and grind. Yeah.
Like, and if you're not miserable or sad or feel like something is missing, then you're doing it wrong. Like,
then
that was such a terrible message.
Right. You know, and I'm grateful that you brought that up, because my grandmother and my mom, they never had a sunny disposition. It was always cloudy with a chance of rain and doom coming. Never the sun, never the sun. Thank you for that. Go ahead, Miss Mocha, you up next.
Yeah, I was pretty much the oddball out to a certain extent when I was growing up. So I used to get told a lot that I was weird by not my mother and father so much, but like aunts. One of my aunts in particular. And although I would try to take it where like I wasn't trying to take it negatively, but it still kind of separated me from the rest of the kids. And it was already that anyway. But one thing that I remembered when I was a little girl that that my mother said to me that hurt my feelings, uh, because I did have a different way that I did things. She asked me, "Why can't you be more like one of my cousins?"
Right.
Which is the daughter of my aunt that used to call me weird all the time. Why can't you be more like her? And I'm thinking to myself, because I'm not her, so I can't be like her. I'm nothing like her. And I realized though that my mom didn't really mean any harm. She was really just trying to get me to kind of conform more so that I wouldn't stick out so much and so I wouldn't be teased, or maybe she would get teased, you know. So it was like I was asked more than once by people in my family and just people in general to be a little bit more like everybody else.
Right.
So when I was young, that was kind of an issue. My father would come in and kind of he would smooth it over for me and tell me it's okay for me to just be me. But as I got older and I'm dealing with other people, like even into adulthood,
Mm-hmm.
it was a thing. And it's funny to me now because a lot of things that I was saying back then, everybody doing now.
Right. Right.
So yeah.
Got you. I got you. Thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you. All right, Honeybee, it's on to you.
I'm gonna piggyback off on Miss Mocha because my mom did the exact same thing to me, and
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna bring that up also.
Okay.
She would ask me why you can't be more like your cousin, or why you can't be more like this person, or why you can't be more like that person. Like literally, again, up until my 20s,
Mm-hmm.
and but as a child, she would always like try to turn me against people.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like she tried to make it seem as if she was the only person that cared about me, because for the longest it was your dad don't love you, he don't care about you. Why you think you're not here? Your brothers and sister don't care about you. Why you think they not here?
Right.
These people don't like you. And then after she had me isolated, where it was just me and her, she
Right.
started to tell me, you know, I fucking hate you. Why
Yeah.
can't you be more like this person?
Yeah. And
Like,
she done blocked off everybody else. And now she could just throw the darts right at you. Boop, 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 'cause you don't have nowhere to
yeah.
go. Oh, that's cruel, man. That is cruel and unusual, man. That is cruel. I'm glad you successfully navigated to and through all of that, and that you have processed and released it, um, uh, Honeybee. But that's tough. That's a tough, especially for a girl, and it was just you and her. It wasn't like it was a bunch of other folks, just you and her. So that's really, really, really tough. Thank you guys for that. Question number 2. Did you witness any physical violence, verbal abuse, or emotional abuse between your parents or those that raised you during your childhood and your developmental stages? I again, the verbal abuse was nightly with my grandmother and grandfather, and there was 2 instances of physical abuse, both my grandmother punching my grandfather. Well, she punched him, she hit him once with her hand, and then one time she hit him on the head with her purse. Um, uh, and when my mother had a house before she had her stroke, one of her boyfriends, my mama had a bunch of boyfriends. Yeah, married and divorced 4 times before the age of 23. Um, uh, her and one of her boyfriends uh, got into it. I remember that because my mother told me to go hide in the closet. And any of y'all that have been in any of my classes, when I talk about the number 7, the first thing I always tell y'all about the number 7 ain't no punk, no matter what age. And in my little mind, I didn't say it like this to myself then, but my little 5-year-old mind was like, fuck that, I'm not hiding shit. I'm gonna help, Mom. I got you. you know. uh, so I did witness physical violence, verbal abuse, emotional abuse between the parents that raised and the folks that raised me during childhood and my developmental ages. And it really went a long way into this innate thing, this thing. I don't know how it developed like this, but I have an overwhelming need to protect the women that are around me. I just especially ones I consider like you my niece or you my sister or something, like all of y'all on this call. Yeah. All of y'all on this call. If necessary, yeah, I will roll on a situation for you. If necessary. One person on this call, I'm not going to tell you who it is. I've offered to do that a couple of times. Yep. You already done chimed in. I wasn't gonna put you on front, but yep, I will roll on a situation for you because of what I saw happen not only to my mother, and my mother was a fighter. She scratched him up just as good as he scratched her up. But I also saw with other female relatives in my family, neighbors, and all of that. Yeah, I was 8 years old and I wanted to run across the street with my baseball bat and get with Mr. Martinez, who was tightening up his wife one night. And my grandfather grabbed me by my belt in the back of my pants and said, hold on there, young man. Hold on. Anybody, y'all, I'm opening it up. Y'all dealt with any of that? Yes, Miss Lemons, go right ahead.
Yeah, when I was in second grade, I saw my parents on the porch. They was fighting on the porch.
How that make you feel? Yeah, talk about how that made you feel.
Me and my sister, we were just sitting at the table eating, and I just went to the door and I just looked and saw them fighting. I'm just like, what are they fighting for? Like, what is going on? Like, is it really that serious? Like,
right.
We sitting here just trying to eat. Then my mom came in. She had like a cut and she was bleeding, like blood was dripping down her face. And she was like, we gonna move or we gonna go here. And I was looking at her like, I don't want to deal with this. Like, I want her to get out my face. Like,
right.
and leave me alone. Like, I don't.
Absolutely.
I don't want to deal with this. And then before then, my little sister's mother, before she got pregnant with her, she called my mother's job and almost got her fired. So when my mom came to pick us up, I saw her lay Jesus' hands on her for about a good 5 minutes before my uncle came running upstairs to grab my mom off of her. And because that happened, my dad told her that, she couldn't take us for the weekend like she was supposed to.
Right.
And it was Halloween that weekend, and my mom didn't celebrate holidays, so she was like really upset about him doing that. And then I saw them two get into it because it's like she finally had came to live with us, with my dad, me and my sister. She came and lived with us, and then it was like she was ready to leave again and told us that we was gonna leave with her. And I'm like, who told you I wanted to go with you? Like, I'm fine where I'm at. Like,
I'm good here. I'm good. Yeah.
And because of what happened before when we lived with her, like, I lost part of my memory that's gone. And my memory pick up being with my dad. Like, I don't want to leave. Then I had to tell my bestie, I wanted to go to school and tell my bestie, like, I'm moving with my mom. They got into a fight. My dad went to jail for the night or whatever. But she wouldn't let me go to school. And I'm like, can I please go and tell her that I'm moving? So I just got her phone number. We keep in contact. And she was just like, no. And I'm like, why? Like, I get into a fight with y'all. That's y'all business. That ain't had nothing to do with me. Like, why do I have to lose something because y'all can't get it together? That's not fair to me. But, fortunately, me and her was still linked in on a soul level because I ended up finding her 10 years later, and she was looking for me too, my bestie. So I was like, I wanted to tell you what happened and everything, but my parents was like, I'm like, why are y'all fighting?
Right.
Like, and then when I got older, we moved with my mom at this location, the next location. My cousin, boyfriend, and baby daddy having a shoe out in front of the house, and then nothing but women and kids in the house. And your kids is in the house. Like, my sister almost got shot trying to go to the bathroom.
See?
And it's like, what is it? Like, this is how we're supposed to live? And
Is
it's
this
like, no, we're
normal?
not supposed to. Yeah, but I don't understand. Like, you know, it was heavy.
I got you. Thank you for that. Yes, Jolene.
So that reminds me, the stepfather, the ex-stepfather, and mama, they never ever ever argued. They never disagreed, but the house was full of horror. Because he wouldn't do too much in front of her.
Right.
So he was treating her like a princess.
Okay.
A princess. And horrifying her children. And she didn't even see it.
Wow. He's just a terrorist.
And when you find out,
yeah,
right? When you do find out, you put one child out of the house.
Ooh.
And then keep him in.
Ooh,
so the horror continues.
Oh yeah.
That was my household.
And then the kids that is left is like, oh shit, I better act right or I'm next. Yeah.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't fear. It was fear. It was just like, I don't know. I can't even describe, like a horror quiet house. A horror quiet house.
I got you.
You know
exactly what you're talking
crazy.
About. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Yes, Miss Mocha, go right ahead.
My mother used to whoop my daddy's ass and his girlfriends. My father never hit my mom.
Okay.
But as far as the emotional abuse, where it was definitely emotional abuse.
Oh yes.
You know, with the women, with he also used to kind of try to make my mom, as according to what my mom told me, and I know she wasn't not telling me the truth. He made her feel bad about being lighter skinned. So he would be like, you know, talking about how pretty certain dark skinned women were and different stuff like that. My mother said so much that she used to buy darker makeup and try to make herself look a little darker. But I realized too, a lot of I think that my father used to do things like that to make my mother so he could keep her with all the things that he was doing.
Yes.
But seeing my mother fight my father and crying, that hurt me. Although he didn't hit her, he never hit her.
Right.
She really used to hit him bad.
I can imagine.
And so the way that really affected me though into my 20s is I felt like that it was okay to go upside a man's head if he cheated on me. And every nigga I had,
you clocked him. Yeah.
Right. But of course that wasn't healthy at all. You're not supposed to put your hands on nobody no matter what.
But that's your learned behavior though. That was your pattern. You was exposed to that. Yeah.
Right.
So how are you not going to end up like that? And thank you for that, Mocha. In my relationships that I had with various women in my 20s, the first thing that I always said was, I'm never going to sit there and argue back and forth with a woman like my grandmother and grandfather did. Well, guess the fuck what happened. We used to sit there and argue back and fucking forth. And it used to, after I would do it, I would go outside, I'd hit my cigar or go hit my joint, and I would just be like, dude, why did you fall into that shit again? What is it? What is it? Oh, yeah, yeah. Number 3, did you grow up in a neighborhood where violence, criminal activity, drug abuse, and any other detrimental behaviors were accepted as the norm. I grew up on P Street in Tulare, California, on the 500 block of P Street. On the 700 block of P Street was Berkeley's liquor store, the pool hall, Jim Lynn's barbershop, the gambling shack, and the Elks, the Black Elks clubhouse. From the time I was a little boy up until, even through high school, P Street was still open before the redevelopment came through. There was all manner of stuff. That I saw somebody get stabbed in their abdomen. He later perished from his injury. Saw people get shot, saw people get hit with pool cues. I saw drug addicts shooting heroin in the on the school grounds where the nursery school was at our little grade school. They'd be sitting up in there because it had shade, and they'd sit up there. I saw sex workers working their business, you name it. I saw it and went through it. On a regular daily basis. Hell, in the summers, I would get up and eat breakfast and get dressed and go down to the pool hall to work with my uncle and hang out. I thought it was the greatest adventure that I could take. Yeah, watching all that depravity and watching all that detrimental behavior, it did not have a very great influence on me. And it took me a long time to shake the residual effects of what that did for me from the time I was like 7, 8 years old until I got through high school. One thing it did do for me, by the time I got into my 30s and 40s and moved out of that town, and I lived in South Central Los Angeles, I would walk the streets of South Central LA at all hours of the night, not afraid of anything, because I done already seen people get shot. I done seen you get mugged. I've seen you get robbed. It didn't matter. It didn't matter that I was in a whole nother city. You know what I'm saying? So anybody grow up in South Central? Anybody grow up in the Fifth Ward? Anybody grow up in, oh, here come the Bronx. Let's go Bronx. Go ahead, Jolene. Unmute yourself though. Did you raise your hand, Jolene?
Yeah, I started laughing. I started laughing. You answered my own. You answered your question, but yeah, I got jumped and everything, and the thing about getting jumped and not arguing is like, you know how I feel about my sister,
right? And
she told me how to deal with it, and then it wasn't what they said or it did, because they jumped me, but it was all of those years that I just bam. And, I mean, they never fuck with me again.
I don't,
because you just don't know what people are carrying or what they went through. Leave people the hell alone.
Leave folks alone.
Right? That's what, leave people alone. And I, to this day, I don't argue. I don't argue because I can flip. My finger could flip. Really, I don't argue. I'd rather leave it the fuck alone. Stay away from me, because I don't argue, and that's your saving grace. That's all I have to say. But that's what it is.
Yeah. I'm still the same way I was as a kid. I really don't have time to stand up and box with you and swing around and all of that.
Yeah, I ain't going back and forth.
I'm going to disable your ass so I can turn around and walk away.
That's what we do. That, yeah. Yep.
I'm gonna hit you in the knee with my bat. I'm gonna break a bottle over your head. I'm gonna pull one of my books out of my book bag and crack you with it so I can turn around and walk away and don't have to worry about you chasing me. I'm not gonna sit there and box with you.
Yeah, and it's
get all that.
That's back in the day,
Get all that. Thank you for that, Jolene.
Yep.
Wow, just wow. There really are layers to everything, including the unpacking of all the shit we had to swim through and navigate during our childhood and developmental stages. All right, this is the last one we're going to get to today. We got time. Trust for a child and during our developmental stages is the most important aspect of life itself. Being abused, hurt, traumatized, or in some other way negatively affected by someone that we trusted is tremendously hard to get around, over, or past. Youthful vulnerability is a tenuous and temperamental thing. Building up trust in others always is a process that frightens each of us, even as adults. The placing of our youthful trust in others puts us in positions that could become abusive, dysfunctional, or toxic. We are conditioned to automatically trust certain people as kids, such as our parents or those that raised us, and our adult relatives, and our teachers, and our coaches, and our club leaders, and the clergy, and the police, and those in positions of authority. Being let down by any of these can be devastating to a child or a developing teenager. Many of us have compartmentalized these type situations and locked them away, never to be talked about, let alone faced up to, processed through, released, and started healing from it. I'm going to open this up and ask the last few questions that will require us to go deeper than the surface and to go where has been forbidden or forgotten. Did you have your trust broken, breached, or otherwise compromised as a child or during your developmental stages? If yes, what were the circumstances and how did it affect you after the fact? Yeah, I had I was like 13, and I was in line to be named the leader of the math Super Bowl team that I was on in junior high school. And, you know, being me, I shared some knowledge with one of my teammates, and they claimed it as their own and got credit for it and got named the leader of the team. I'm gonna tell you exactly what it did for me at that moment. At that moment, it let me know that, number one, I talk too much. Like my grandmother said, it reaffirmed something that my grandmother had kept saying to me: you talk too much, they're gonna use your shit against you. You talk too much, sometimes you need to just shut up. That was number one. So I didn't even want her to be right about it, but at that moment she was. And then number two, the teacher, the leader of our group, knew that it was my work, yet would not acknowledge that. So it really, really drove me inside to a point to where I don't tell nobody nothing. I didn't need to see the meme that said manifest in silent and whatever else smart that comes after that. I didn't need to see that. I have been a solo, since then. Even when I'm doing some illegal or criminal shit, which I have done in the past, done my shit by myself. Number one, I want nobody telling shit on me and breaching my trust. Number two, if I do my own crimes by myself, I don't have to split the money with nobody else. Have you, any of y'all, had your trust broken, breached, or otherwise compromised as a kid? And if so, what happened and how did it affect you? Anybody? Go ahead, Miss.
I want to say oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Jolene, and then Miss Mocha. Go ahead.
Oh, I want to say I do trust people. I really I trust people. I learned not that I don't want to apply the past on people.
Mhm.
People
Mhm.
just have to show me, and I freed myself a lot from
Mhm.
a lot of pressure that I could have put on myself. I
Mhm.
refuse to do that, and I refuse to put it on other people. And so, now when I was, a single parent, I was still trying to figure out. So I was still quiet. And
Mhm.
I was kind of little intense with my daughter.
Mhm.
We would be together. I would do a lot with her, but it was a little different intensity. And if she was here, she's 35. If she was here, she'll tell you, oh my goodness. But I think, it's a process. It's a process. And now we have really great conversations. But I think that it's always a process of a body human release,
Okay.
to get
Yeah.
to a point
Yeah.
that to get to that point. But I
Well,
do trust people.
thank you for that, Jolene. And I'm grateful that you trust people. I don't trust anybody.
You trust me.
Wait, listen. I don't trust anybody other than myself. And I trust that my mastered self is never going to put me in a situation, circumstance, event happening, or endeavor to where I can't trust the folks who are around me. So I don't think about if I trust you. I don't even worry about that. I trust me and my soul to keep me around trustworthy people.
I get that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
All
did want
right.
to share.
And then go ahead, Ms. Brown. Go ahead.
So I know I brought up the relationship with my mother.
Mm-hmm.
And the only example that I can kind of think of right now is I had it for my mother's half sister, which was on her father's side, my grandfather's side. She lived with us at one point, and she was like the cooler aunt. And again, based off of how my mother treated me, she was tough on me, tough love. I confided more in my aunt.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I told my aunt, I think it was about a boy or like a situation. And me confiding in my aunt, I never thought she'd go back and tell my mother. But she later on did, and I was in shock.
Mm-hmm.
So I experienced that. But listen to this, Uncle Mark. They later on fell out because that same aunt turned on my mother.
Wow. See? See?
So I already knew the way her sister was because
Right.
she had already, affected me. But
Right.
she later on did something to my mother
Wow.
and ended up talking poorly about my mother. My mother ended up overhearing it because
Mhm.
again, they live in the same house. So
Yeah.
that was the experience that I've had as a child,
Wow.
telling an adult, hey, and like I
Yeah.
said, it was something innocent, like I was in high school telling her about a boy. It was nothing crazy. I wasn't
Nothing
sexually
crazy.
active. It
Right.
was
But
just,
still it caused you to immediately be like, nope, I'm not going through that no more. I'm keeping
yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you for that, Miss Brown. Go ahead, Honeybee. Unmute yourself. There you go.
I believe Mocha was supposed to share next, but I can wait till
Yeah.
Susan.
Yeah, Miss Mocha, I apologize. Miss Mocha, you had your hand up.
My
Go ahead.
apologies.
No. It's all good. We're good.
No, go ahead and let Honeybee talk. I can talk after her.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Honeybee.
So when I was younger, my sister used to do little sneaky stuff, and then she would lie and say I did it.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom never asked anything. She just would walk up and slap the shit out of me.
Yep.
Every single time.
Yep.
And then my stepmom, after I started going to stay with my dad, like my stepmom would do the same thing where like she cooked one time and I walked in the kitchen and I opened the pot. I walked in the kitchen and I opened the pot and I was like, what you cook? And she was like, why are you looking? She said, what if I just cooked that for my family? You know, me, my daughter, and my husband.
So
and
what?
I didn't, yeah, I didn't, I didn't know how to respond to that. So I just closed the pot and I walked out. Like I left the house and I waited, like I rode my bike around the neighborhood. I was like 10. I rode my bike around the neighborhood for like 2 hours and waited for my dad to get back so I could tell him what happened. But by the time I made it back to the house, she already lied to my dad and was like, your daughter was here disrespecting us and doing this and blah, blah, blah. So again, my dad didn't ask me any questions.
Nope, just bing.
I just got in trouble. My dad wasn't the type to put depends on me.
Right.
But he definitely like wouldn't listen to what I was saying. He would take her side with like everything. So it just made me not want to speak my truth because nobody cared to listen.
Yeah, I'll just shut the fuck up. It's stress for me if I just I know that feeling.
If I say it, you're not gonna listen. So
you ain't gonna listen. You ain't gonna believe it anyway. You're gonna be questioning me about some shit. Yeah, no, it's all good. All right, Miss Mocha, you up?
With once again with my dad. I think the first time that we actually, I didn't see him with the woman though. We had gone to the A&P. Me, my mom, and my sister. And my mom, the woman that my father's main other chick, because he had a lot of them, but the main one, her and my mother ran into each other at the store, and I think my daddy was outside or whatever. So when my dad saw that my mother saw the woman, he got in our other car and left. Just left the woman there. And my mother and she were going back and forth and stuff. And my sister was mad. She was like, that's daddy's girlfriend or whatever. And I didn't believe it. So I asked daddy. He's like, no. Just a friend. You know, and I believed my father. But when I found out that he was lying to me, of course, that broke my trust.
Absolutely.
And I think I may have been by 8 or 9. No, I might have been a little bit older than that. But it wasn't really until I was a teenager, more like about 13 or so, when I realized that my father had lied about that.
Right.
So there was a lot of impactful stuff going on at that time. My grandmother had just passed away, which my grandmother was like my best friend, my mother's mother. And then I wasn't the popular one, you know. I was like the weirdo. But I had a lot of, I could write speeches, I could do all this. So one of my first cousins, she was pretty popular, and she and I had decided to help her become class president so that we can get some things done around there. Because I come from a very racist place in Winfield, Louisiana. And so my cousin became class president after I wrote her a speech. And she never acknowledged that I wrote that speech.
Wow.
To this day.
Wow.
But that really, it made me feel like, you know, some of the closest people to you, you could really give them parts of your soul with great intentions, and they can mishandle it. So it does make me not trust so much, you know. There are certain things that there's a lot of people. I don't just deal with people on certain levels. There's a lot of things I will do myself. But if I open up to let someone else into my personal space to do something for me or tell them something or whatever, and that's not upheld, it just makes me want to be a little bit not a little bit, a lot more closed in. But you said something really profound, and I think it's very righteous, to not worry about trusting people. Trust the divine, trust your higher self, to bring the right people into your life at the right times, you know.
Yeah.
And I
believe that. I truly believe that. I count on that. In fact, I count on my higher self. I count on Source Creator to only put me in situations and circumstances and endeavors, events, and happenings that are first meant for me, number
Right.
one, and number two, that aren't going to be detrimental to my health, wealth, or life.
Right.
And
Thank you, Mark.
and if you do that, if we do that, then the whole trust issue is moot. Anyway, thank you for that, Miss Mocha. Yes, Miss Lemons, go right ahead.
Okay. And to piggyback off what Courtney was saying, my brothers used to do that. They used to like eat up everything or break something, and it would be them three against me, and they would blame everything on me. And when I was living with my dad, I think my sister was about to be born or something, but I had a bunch of cousins over my dad's house. They told me somebody was in the kitchen calling for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, for real? They like, yeah, go see what they want. So when I walked around and I went in the kitchen, I'm like, ain't nobody in here. And I turned around and started like looking at the door. Everybody was running out and they left me there by myself. I was like, wait, why didn't y'all just tell me I was leaving? Like,
Yeah, you could have did that. There's no big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good.
I think I was like 6.
Yeah.
Like 5 or 6 years old.
Look, truth be told, I'm ready for y'all to leave. So y'all, yeah, I was good. Crazy, man. Crazy. Thank you for that. Question number 2. Were you ever told something that was supposed to be kept secret by someone you trusted that you knew was wrong and should not be kept secret? Anybody? Me, more than a few occasions, and because some of the folks are still alive, that's all I can say about it. But yeah. Are you the son that daddy has confided in you about his extramarital dalliances, but don't tell mom? Are you the daughter that knows something about mom, or mom shared and confided in you, but we're not going to tell dad?
I sure.
Go
I
ahead.
feel like I'm making my mom sound like a bad person.
No,
but
you're making your mom sound like your mom.
But growing up, I understood that she did the best that she could with what she had.
Absolutely.
There was a point in my childhood, we lived somewhere else, and we were staying with one of her siblings. She had been out of work, and she was just having a hard time getting back on her feet.
Mm-hmm.
So her sibling opened up their home to us, and my mom stole one of her pearls. It was like a pearl bracelet or a ring or something. And instead of asking my mom, she came downstairs and she was like, "Have you seen my pearl ring?" And I was like, "Yes, ma'am. It's on a nightstand downstairs." And I didn't know that,
it wasn't there, right?
it was stolen. Yeah.
Right.
So she went downstairs, and I'm upstairs playing with my cousins. I'm not paying no attention. My mom's like, "Court, come here." I'm like, "Okay." So I go downstairs. When I say she beat the entire shit out of me, like she was so mad at me. And I was like, I remember telling her, I think I was like 9 at the time, 9 or 8. And I remember telling her, I was like, I don't understand why you're mad at me. Like, why would you steal from her and we live in her house for free?
Right. Right. That part. Right.
And she was mad at me for days.
Oh, I could imagine.
But I knew that it was my auntie's. I didn't know that she stole it. So when I saw it, it was never like, don't tell her that I have it. It was just like, this your auntie's. And that's it.
Right. All right. Thank you for that. I want to give y'all a funny disclaimer. All of my friends knew with me growing up, do not tell Mark Pyle any secrets or anything nefarious, because if somebody in authority comes asks him about it, he is going to rat your ass out. I'm not taking the fall for you or nobody else. And because I lived with my grandmother, and the best way to get me for her to shut up was for me to tell the truth, I tell the truth. Mark, did you see who took the dude's bicycle? Yes, I did, actually. Sure did. He took off that way. His name was thus and such, and whoop, if you go right now, you can catch him. Yeah, I'm going to sing. That's right. I'm going to sing. That's another reason why all criminal activity I've ever done in my life, I've done by myself. Because police come up after me, I'm not running. I'm not, pulling a gun on them. I'm not going to be talking shit to them. If I've done the crime and they catch up to me, I will be like, take me away, officer. You got me. What? Yep. You want to sit down? I'll give you a full statement. I sure will. Boop. Because the truth just always works better for me, man. It just, it's so liberating. And I always lived by the motto, I'm going to do whatever I think I'm big enough to do, and I'm going to take whatever consequence comes from my behavior and or reward. All right, last question. Do you still have secrets from your childhood and developmental stages that you are currently afraid of being exposed? Once again, I've always been authentically me, and I've never allowed anyone to define me since the age of 16. And I will and have often told on myself, not in told on myself. However, anything that anybody could even remotely think they could hold over my head as some secret, I've told y'all all myself. So I'm not concerned about somebody coming back when I was 10 years old and I pushed you down in the mud. Yeah, and I kicked your ass too, right? Tell the other part. Or whatever the thing is. So there's no, I've resolved and faced the things, what Sandra did to me that lived across the street from me when I was 8 years old. That was the thing I didn't want. I didn't want nobody to know. Now you know, and you guys still show up, so I'm grateful. So I don't have anything, but is if, and I'm not going to put anybody on the spot right here. What I'm saying is, if there is anything remotely close from your childhood or developmental years that you are afraid of it being exposed, I suggest you expose it yourself. Oh, if I tell what Uncle Creepy did to me, it's going to break up the family. Guess the fuck what? The family already broke. If they knew Uncle Creepy did that shit to you and never said nothing. You know what I'm saying? Don't allow something you didn't even ask for to paralyze you. Yes, Jolene, go right ahead. Unmute yourself, Jolene.
Yeah, I was thinking about the exposure and what happened in the past and everything. Mm-hmm. And it's weird. It's, my mother is 80. And, I'm a little investigator. Your connection is bad, Jolene. and I love to listen to stories. Now my mom, if when she shares, she shares. She doesn't come just out of it. And so is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
Conversation with my mother. Okay. So I had a very, very, very interesting conversation with my mother the other day. And now she's older. She always talked about her family, her mother, her father, grandfather, and everything. And my grandmother, she didn't speak Spanish. She didn't speak English. So I didn't get a lot of information from her. But my mother now jokes. She was very funny. She wanted fun. She loved dancing. But she said, my children, they don't have a joke. They don't have that sense of laughter. And I'm like, oh. And, then all of a sudden I was able to get in her head a little bit because she's acting like she don't know anything. And she might not know, but she know enough to know enough to not deny anymore.
Right.
And so now in that 1 minute, I thought she would have just like, oh, she saw, and I'm like, oh, and I'm like, oh. And still to this day. So it's not about the secret. It's about, okay, realizing, acknowledging, damn, at least saying something has happened. Why your children can't just laugh.
Right.
What happened?
Right. It's a reason
but she
why
can't take herself to that conversation.
Hey, sometimes we got to bring it to them ourselves. Thank you for that, Jolene. Thank you. Yeah, with and again, I'm not putting nobody on Front Street or anything. This question is one that I want us all to ponder and think about and resolve within our own selves. I highly, highly, highly recommend that if it is something you're afraid of having exposed and it's something that you feel would fracture the family, I'm telling you, family's already fractured. And you deserve relief. You deserve relief. So on that one, I'm gonna leave that one there on purpose. All right. In conclusion, coming to grips with everything that we each went through individually during our childhood and developmental stages can be a daunting task and seem overwhelming, to say the least. Peeling back the layers is a necessary and scary proposition, yet it needs to be done diligently and with compassion for self in mind. Processing through and releasing these traumas will be the greatest accomplishment each of us can do for ourselves. So you know what? Let's all heal together, y'all. I'm gonna open it up. First, I'm gonna open it up for comments and everything, and I want to give the two folks who this is the first time I've had you on here. I will open up the floor for Tamara Brown and the person who signed under RAXS. I'm gonna open up the floor now for you guys to introduce yourselves to the group. And I want to give you guys some information so you can get on my email list so that you can be notified with the proper login for each and every episode. So the floor is open. Start with Miss Brown. Introduce yourself and let us know how you got here today.
Hey, hello everyone.
Hello.
My name is Tamara Brown. I also go by Taj. I currently live in Austin, Texas. I actually met Miss Honeybee when I was working in Houston, Texas. When I first moved to Texas, I met Honey working at a restaurant.
Okay.
And we just clicked right away and we became friends. She was one of the only friends I really had in Houston. I kind of kept to myself. So And she really, it was a blessing. She really made me realize what my spirituality was. She informed me about numerology. She always talked highly of her Uncle Mark, um, just like the steps that she's taking, the healing process, and it definitely inspired me to want to do the same. So that is why I'm here today.
Absolutely. Great, great, great. Thank you, Honeybee, for the invite. I'm putting my uh, email address in the chat. I want you to send me email, Miss Brown. Uh, Send me an email to this email address I just put in the chat, and
Okay.
and then I will respond back to you. I'm feeling very benevolent today, so you just won a free initial reading. So email me at that email address I just put in the chat, and
Okay.
I'll get the information that I need from you from there, and then we'll take it from there. And thank
Okay.
you, and your presence is very, very welcome, and thank you for showing up and participating today.
Of course. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you much. Thank you much. All right, the person who signed in as RAXS.
That would be me.
Yeah, open up. Let us know who you are. How'd you get invited? What's going on with you?
Good night, everyone. My name is Ramon, and Tamara, who was just speaking, is actually my cousin.
Okay.
So she was invited by Honeybee, and she invited me to sit in on this.
Okay.
So,
Well, Ramon, you, my friend, have also won a free initial reading. So you will copy down that email address that I just put into the chat. You will send me an email on your own, and I will reach back out to you within 48 hours with what I need, what type of information I need from you. And as long as you are okay, I'll put you on my mailing list, and you can be invited to each and every show that I have on a go forward basis.
okay, for sure. Yeah, I would definitely like to participate again.
All right. All right. Thank you for showing up and for participating.
Thank you.
Now, did somebody uh invite Olivia? Somebody that's here? Did somebody invite Olivia? Was that another one of yours, Honeybee?
Yeah.
Will you give Olivia the same message I just gave to Tamara and Ramon? Give her my email address, let her know that she is the winner of a first initial free reading as well, and have her email me and let her know that I will get back in contact with her within 48 hours as well.
Okay, we can do that.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Anybody got any questions, any comments about what we have covered today?
I just want to say thank you very much. There are a lot of things that you touched on that gives me more incentive to do my shadow work.
Absolutely, man.
And I just really appreciate the work that you're doing.
You're always most welcome, Miss Mocha, as are all of you that are here. Know that yeah, we don't play around over here at On the Sevens. We get to it, and we get to the real work, and we go to the soul. We go down to the, I have a description, get a pole and go all the way down in your soul until you hear that ding, ding, and then stir. That's where you stir from, where all that shit is settling at the bottom. That's what we do here at On the Sevens. We don't too much care about surface shit. We like deep, 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 deep diving, and we are grateful. Anybody else got in comments? Yes,
Yeah.
Tamala.
Hi. The comments, well, about secrets. I I have this belief that if anyone comes to me wanting to tell me something about somebody else with the energy or direct comment of, don't tell so and so, I opt out, because it'll put a wedge between me and possibly another person, because it's based off of what one person is telling me.
Right.
And like, I can't quite explain. It puts a wedge, and you also have to question the other person's motive.
Absolutely.
And it's just not ethical. Like, it's just not clean energy. And so I just wanted to mention that and see if you or anyone else had any
I'm
comments
glad
about that.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Thank you for sharing, Tamala. Since I was like I said, since I was a kid, and you know how you be on the playground, this all started at the playground, and it has stayed with me throughout my adult life up until this exact moment. So what I am telling you, this is how I reacted back then, but this is how I would still react today if the situation happened. You're on a playground and kid run up and say, "Hey, Mark, Billy just said that you're a low down, dirty tallywhacker." Really? I run right past the dude who told me. I go right over to Billy's ass. "Billy, heard you was talking shit about me. What the fuck you say, man?" "I didn't say," or whatever it was. Even to this day, do not. And I'm like that about people who want to come tell secrets about somebody. Let's get a three-way call and go. Yeah, because I'd rather you not even tell me if this is something you need to be telling the person you want to tell the secret about. You two need to talk, not me and you. No, don't. And don't, how dare some people burden you or burden me with that horseshit? That's just somebody that wants to dump the knowledge that they have onto you, and then they can wipe their hands on, "Oh, I told Temla, or I told Mark, or I told Honeybee." No. Kick rocks with that, buddy. Kick rocks with that. I have always been about making people accountable, because I make myself accountable, and keeping people accountable. If you're going to deal with me, you're going to be accountable, because I'm going to keep calling you out until either you become accountable or you make up in your mind, "I'm getting the fuck away from him because he's too much." Either way works for me. If you become accountable, that works for me. And if you get the fuck away from me, that works for me too. Because I am good. I'm self-contained. I am good. My world spins and revolves irregardless of what is happening outside of me. And I love it like that. Love it like that. Anybody else got any comments, any questions, any concerns before we tally ho on? All right. If there will be nothing else, this has been On the Sevens with Pfeiffer's B Metatron, where we come to awaken to our mastered self, ascend with our evolving soul, and expand our consciousness mind. We are thankful and grateful for each and every one of you, for your support and your encouragement. Please continue to keep On the Sevens with Pfeiffer's B Metatron a part of your soul's journey as your mastered self awaits you. Let me leave you with this. What your name cosmically requires, and your soul spiritually desires, and your mind consciously inspires, your body will physically aspire, and your emotions will intensely transpire, and your intellect will proactively inquire, and your master self will most definitely acquire. Always be authentically you, unapologetically. Until Tuesday, goodbye for now.